To be honest, I don't know what came over me, but I was just sick of paying for wedges that I wasn't that impressed with, and they were quite expensive. And then obviously down the line, I realized that with further research that what we often buy on the shelves is not what the pros are using. So then I kind of wanted to fill that gap and create something that if you're a pro and you're using it, then I can guarantee you that what I'm using and what you're using are identical. It was one, the price point, and two, just the fact I didn't really like how they felt. And then obviously after that, realized they're all cast. And another thing was that they're still forging all the irons, so there was quite a big discrepancy kind of between the feel of a good forged iron, and then you're paying that same kind of price point for wedges, but they weren't quite as good and didn't feel quite as good. It's also, no one really makes you aware that even though they look the same, that they're it's two completely different like ways of actually making the wedge. Like one is molten metal poured into a mold versus like it's basically a billet, kind of this size that's hammered into place. It actually blew me away the first time I used a forge wedge. Even like bouncing a ball on it, you can just feel the softness compared to a cast wedge. We took a good few years to design them, which is quite big, and I designed them specifically for myself in terms of visuals, in terms of the sole design, the bounce, the grinds. I basically made them that I wanted a wedge that if you look down on, you feel very confident. And that's where kind of the dual bounce idea came in, that we can have a bit of bounce on the sole, but by removing a bit of the leading edge, that will now sit better on the ground. And then with that, when it sits good and it looks good, it gives you more confidence. I never liked a lot of the wedges have a more rounded leading edge, and then it looks like you don't have enough surface area to kind of hit the golf ball. The sole design, we have a bit of a pre-worn leading edge, which allows us to have a little bit of bounce, but also get the club to actually sit flush behind the golf ball. And that was kind of it. The 52 and the 56 have a little bit more of a cambered, rounded sole, but still have the worn leading edge, so that still allows them to sit in the ground while you have that bit of forgiveness. And then the 60, I wanted it a bit more versatile, so it's a little bit of a flatter sole, slightly wider sole, and again, it still has the pre-worn leading edge, so it can sit very flush on the ground. But with the kind of flatter, wider sole, it just gives you a bit more versatility to kind of play different shots. I think with the forging, it feels to me like you can have a little bit more speed because the ball just doesn't come off quite as fast or as hot. So with that extra bit of speed, you can create a little bit more spin because you know you're not going to get that like hot one off the face. And that was one of the things I struggled with, was having a good lie, perfect scenario, and you hit it what you think is a good shot, and it looks like it's about to spin, and then it just top spins. And I couldn't deal with that. I designed them with the understanding that there are different brands for a reason, because people like different things. They like to look at different things. What I think looks great, you might think looks awful. So they're designed for anyone who wants to use the most premium wedges out there, and who also wants to use something that they know, if you're on tour or if I'm on tour, that what you're using and what I'm using are identical. I think people are surprised that they're paying slightly less and getting a much better product. You'd be under the impression that they won't be quite as good, and then people get them in their hands and they love the weighting, they love the look. I had a friend a couple of years ago who put them in play and won 3 out of the next 4 weeks. So that kind of helped us along the journey and helped legitimize us quite a bit. If you ever see a tour player using our wedges, you know that your wedge and their wedge are made with identical materials. They literally came from the same batch of heads, so I think that's the main kind of guarantee.